Welcome to Soar America. The Soar America team includes Eric, our pilot, who is going to attempt to fly his glider from coast to coast in a series of connected flights and only be the second person to achieve this goal. The rest of the team includes Julie, Tim, Diane, and Tim and Diane's dogs, Peggy and Ellie. Join us as we soar, camp, and drive across America.
Well, they've increased the wind forecast for tomorrow to 20 to 30 mile per hour winds with higher gusts. The wind direction would be a quartering headwind. The cross component is not that big a problem, but in winds that strong, there can be a good bit of turbulence, lift and sink if there are any thermals, and if there aren't any thermals, why would I be launching anyway? So self-launching in true 20 to 30 mile per hour winds is something I'm not comfortable with. I can do it aero towing, because aero towing, the tow plane can give me a lot higher climb rate than I can get with the motor, and I'm towed at 10 to 20 knots faster, which gives me more control authority than I would have self-launching. So self-launching in 20 to 30 mile per hour winds with thermals is probably a no-go for me. Today I chose not to fly because the forecast had too much potential for widespread thunderstorms in it. And I have a fairly long jump to make of 60 miles from here to the next, not just launchable airport, but the next safe place to land. There's nowhere, from what I can tell, between here and there that would even be a safe outlanding site. So a 60-mile stretch of nowhere safe to land and a lot of potential for storms. And it happened. You look around the sky right now and there's storms in every direction. So I didn't want to be in the air and get cut off from the only airport I could reach and have to either fly around storms or land off airport. The last 2 days there was a high chance of storms and they happened. Today it's supposed to be blue, no chance of storms, but no cumulus clouds. The two often go hand in hand. It is supposed to get windy this afternoon though. Some services are saying 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. So I'm hoping to get in the air by around noon before it gets too windy and hope to find some lift. The soaring forecast looks okay, but without cumulus clouds and large expanses of places with nowhere safe to land, I'll need good lift and good altitudes to break away from here to the next airport, which is 61 miles away. We'll see. There in front of you is the highest peak in Texas, or so I'm told, about 8,700 feet above sea level. I think it's 20 to 25 miles east of me. I'm still climbing out over Dell City. The self-launch went well. It's kind of a narrow runway, but we had a favorable winds more or less straight down the runway, so I was able to keep the wingtips off the ground. I was prepared to abort at any second, because just off the 55-foot wide runway, which is only 10 feet wider than my wing, are runway lights and just desert vegetation that most likely would have resulted in damage to the glider had I let a wing drop. So I got off the ground well enough, and I've had to take a couple of slow climbs now trying to get up so I can get out of this low valley and to the higher, drier ground where hopefully the lift is better. But I'm just about to reach 9,000 feet, which is 5,300 feet above takeoff. So it's encouraging, but I need to be probably a couple thousand feet higher to make the jump to the first airport. But first I have to go 17 miles back that way, almost to those hills, and tag where I turned the motor on in the last flight. So it'll take me a while just to get there unless I start finding better lift, because that's almost directly upwind into a 15 mile per hour headwind. I'll check back with you in a bit. Well, it's taken me 4 thermals, I think, but I've stair-stepped my way up to a little over 12,500 feet. Unfortunately, due to the stiff headwind, I'm basically right where I started, right over the airport. But I have at least gained, 9,000 feet from where I started takeoff. So we'll see. As usual, thermals had lined up on a line straight into the wind, so I just took a thermal to the top, pressed straight upwind, took the next one to the top, straight upwind, and so forth. That's what I mean by stair-stepped my way up. So I'll keep pressing straight upwind for a bit, and then I'll turn crosswind toward where I need to go tag the previous flight's path or track. Hopefully I'll be over there soon with enough altitude to make it back to Dell City if I need to come back here to land. There's nowhere between here and there I'd want to land. Well, after pressing 10 or 15 miles upwind into the desert and finding nothing, I doubled back, found something after backtracking a mile or two, took it up to a little over 12,000 feet, and now I'm finally on course for my previous flight's track. So hopefully I'll get there on this glide, but I'm going to try to stay above 9,000 feet. It was tougher below 9. That thermal was about 2 knots stronger above 9 than below 9. Not sure it wasn't just the thermal gaining momentum, but it could be that conditions are poorer in general below 9, so I'll play it safe and try to stay above 9. Well, I stitched this flight to the previous one, but I'm just finding nothing workable on the way back to the east, so if I don't get back up, I'll have to land back where I took off. But at least on the next flight, I won't have to go 17 miles west before I can start going east. But I see a dust devil several miles downwind of the airport. So if I can get there with enough altitude, then that may be my save, or maybe what I've just blundered into here, but this doesn't feel great yet. We'll see. I'm going to concentrate on this and get back to you. Well, I was starting to get frustrated. I was about to cross the mountains here, Guadalupe National Park, I think, and I needed about 1,500 feet to comfortably have the Carlsbad airport made. I just kept going downwind, hoping I'd finally find a thermal. I didn't, so I had to turn around and head back toward Dell City. Pressed up a line of turbulent ups and downs, mostly big sink, and finally just found this one. It's a bumpy climb, but it's the strongest one I've found yet. I got back below 9,000 feet. That does appear to be a threshold of sorts. Below 9, it's tough. I'm back to 10 already. Gained 1,500 in this thermal in about 2 minutes. So now I need about 1,300 to comfortably have Carlsbad made.
I hope this one will get me there, but what I've learned is I can't take for granted that I'm going to find another thermal anytime soon. I'm going to lose several thousand feet of altitude between thermals. I've seen a few dust devils, not many. None of them have helped me directly. I've never been able to make it over the top of one before it dissipated. All they've been able to do is show me the line where maybe thermals are forming, and haven't seen a single cumulus anywhere within my reach, so basically flying blind. As far as finding lift, reading the terrain is about all I can do, and it's kind of a crapshoot. So hopefully I'm going to make it high enough to go and glide toward Carlsbad. I'll check back with you in a few. Well, I was losing my glide, finding more sink than lift, so I turned back to Dell City again. It's just so tough to get away from here. Goodness. Need a big climb. I'm getting a good look at these mountains at least. Well, I was running down the front of this ridge, just about to turn away from it back toward Dell City, because I was starting to get uncomfortable that I could even reach Dell City, which is now 16 miles upwind of me. And I blundered into this at 9,000 feet. I've lost a lot of my cushion for Carlsbad. Now I only have it made by about 1,000 feet. So I'm going to have to do a lot of climbing to be able to make it to Carlsbad. It's 4:15. The good thermals, the even workable thermals, are just so few and far between. And so much sink between thermals. I lost count of how many times I turned around after heading toward Carlsbad, turned around to head back toward Dell City because of the sink and my glide eroding. I'm gone now though. There's no turning back at this point. My glide was still eroding pretty good after I left. It's 36 miles out, had it made with 3,600 feet. So if I lost 100 feet per mile on the calculated glide, I'd arrive at 0, and that's no good. And it was approaching that kind of a scenario, that much sink, till I just found this thermal. I'm now 28 miles from Carlsbad, that's Cavern City Airport, and I have it made with 3,800 feet at the moment. It's almost 5 o'clock. Not a whole lot of hope I'll make it all the way to Hobbs, but it's possible. Another good thermal like this, and it might do it. Or maybe 2 more. Say goodbye to the Guadalupe National Park. That was a welcome surprise there. 5-knot thermal, 3,300 feet gain to a little over 13,000 feet. Now I should easily have Carlsbad made, and with another 2,000 or 3,000 feet of altitude, not accounting for a lot of sink, but I could even have hops made. That'd be fun. Maybe some of those guys are there flying today. It's Sunday. We'll see what happens. For now, let's make sure I make Carlsbad. I have Carlsbad made with 7,000 feet, so a lot. Still have a pretty good tailwind, 10 or 11 miles per hour at the moment, the computers say. And I'm right at the point I'm at 12,000 feet, and I have Hobbs made at ground level. Now that's no good for safety. I don't want to arrive at ground level. I'd like to see, with a jump that long, it's probably 70 or 80 miles from here. I'd like at least a couple thousand feet in the bank. So I need at least a couple thousand foot more of altitude, feet. We'll see if I can get it. Well, I'm committed to making it at least to Hobbs, New Mexico, home of the Soaring Society of America. I'm about 30 miles past Carlsbad, 40 miles short of Hobbs. Just been floating along with a tailwind, trying to sniff for lift lines and circling in weak lift, which is about all I can find. But with a tailwind, even with weak lift, you can make distance. And the wind up here right now is 18 or 19 miles per hour, so pretty good push from behind. Well, I'm about 21 miles southwest of Hobbs. Finally got to my first cumulus of the flight, and it's ragged and dying, but there's a little bit of lift under it still. I have Hobbs easily made from here. Have it made with 4,500 feet, and the air has been pretty smooth lately, as often happens late in the day, especially out over flatlands. I just tried to make a radio call. No one answered, so there may not be anyone out flying from Hobbs today. It'd be fun if they were, but I didn't check with them, so I don't know. Well, I'm about 3 miles from Industrial, the airport in Hobbs. Still see no sign that any gliders are out playing today. I am going to fly over though. I set a task for a 13.5 meter class record, and I set the finish point as this airport. So I'm going to fly over it, but it looks like I might be able to reach the next airport farther. If I can, I'll do that. After all, I'm trying to reach the Atlantic, so any extra eastward progress is good. And things are starting to look different. Not quite as desert. A lot more farming. See the circles? All sorts of different sizes and colors of circles. Interesting terrain. Very flat, it looks like from up here anyway. And flat is fine with me. Mountains are cool, but flat is fine too. It's about 6:35 in the afternoon or evening, whatever you want to call it. If I have my time zones right, I think I have an hour to an hour and 20 minutes of daylight left, something like that. And I just keep finding these weak 2 or 3 knot thermals. And with a nice 17 mile per hour wind at the moment, tailwind, it just pushes me right along. Even while I'm circling, I'm covering ground at 17 miles per hour anyway. I think the team is not far behind me. Now this is my kind of place. There are a lot of airports around, and every time I pick up an extra 1,000 feet or so, I can make it one airport farther. So it's late in the day, the lift is weak, but the wind is still blowing the way I want it to go, and I can just keep jumping from one airport to the next. Good times. I think I just overflew my waypoint file though. I had a US waypoint file loaded in this flight computer. I failed to load a US Central one. I just really didn't anticipate flying this far east. Thankfully I do have it loaded on this one, so score 1 for having a backup flight computer. Otherwise I wouldn't know where the airports were and things like their length and width and direction, and I'd just be flying blind as far as landing places go. So I need to load that before the next flight. Somewhere over in North Texas. My last check says that where I'm headed now, the Terry County Airport, not too far from Lubbock, Texas, that the sun sets there in 28 minutes, and it'll take me 26 minutes to get there. So I'm going to be pushing it to beat sunset. 35 miles away. And I can't just go too fast or I will burn up too much of my altitude and won't make it. So let's hope for a little lift along the way. That'll help me go faster. And look what's going on over there. I'm not sure where that is. It may be Dallas. I'm not sure. I don't know how close I am to Dallas, but I believe that's the general direction of Dallas anyway. East-southeast. I'm glad I'm not over there. And over there, you can see the remnants of a thunderstorm. So I'm right here in this sweet zone with nothing scary going on. Nothing I can see anyway. I don't like scary. Well, I don't know what town this is I'm approaching, but the airport I intend to land at is the Terry County Airport, which is a little beyond this town. And Lubbock is some distance that way. I'm not sure, maybe 30-40 miles that way. I don't know where I am. Somewhere in Texas. I found favorable air on this glide so far, so this is my final glide. Sunset is in 14 minutes, and it's going to take me 8 minutes to get here. So I'll have 6 minutes to execute an approach and landing before I'm illegal being in the air past sunset without proper lighting. Shouldn't be a problem. 10 miles to go. Figured out the name of the town. It's Brownfield, Texas, and I'm here. You probably can't see the airport right down there. Maybe you can. I'm here with plenty of altitude and 9 minutes before sunset. Nobody's talking on the radio, so probably no one here. I have the field to myself. Terry County traffic, turning base, glider Quebec Victor, base for 13 Terry County.